Welcome to Unmuted Love, folks. You intrepid travelers along the bumpy path of parenting children who suffer from the slings and arrows of early attachment and abuse trauma. It's me, C. Eshelman, your host. And today we're going to tackle part 4, the last in our series on parenting children diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder. Parenting children who've been severely harmed in the first 2 years of life may be diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, and some may not be. Whether they are or they aren't, you need specialized therapeutic parenting coupled with strong boundaries, deep conviction, and immeasurable determination to pull this whole thing off. I hope this last episode brings it all together for you and you can find a little peace in the process. Here we go. Okay, I'm not going to go through all these things. We'll come back to a whole training on P.A.C.E, but playfulness does not mean you have to get out your toys whenever you're playing. It means lightheartedness, right? A light spirit. It's sort of like getting parents out of the role of project managers or drill sergeants, right? That sound, pick up your shoes, take this to your room, come to dinner, right? Can you hear this sort of strained sound in my voice? I mean, I'm familiar with it because it was a voice I used quite often when I was frustrated because I didn't understand what I was looking at. And I felt frustrated and annoyed by the repetition of parenting, right? With kids who come from difficult beginnings. And I had no idea how to make that different. I do now. But if you can come from a lighthearted place, your kids actually will listen better. And then also if you can realize that they don't need you to come down on them hard about anything, that's not what teaches people. Like, think this way. If you were trying to learn Spanish and you're an English speaker, and every time you made a mistake, the teacher said, no, not this, that. I mean, after a while, you wouldn't try to speak Spanish anymore, right? You'd be ashamed of yourself or embarrassed or like, oh, I'm too stupid to learn Spanish. And so we have to be aware of how powerful we are. Also, playfulness is the language of children. They listen to playfulness. They tune out harshness because they're scared of it, or they just become deaf to it if we use it too often. So I just really want to encourage you to recognize that harshness does not teach anything good. It teaches that we are scary and that they're bad. That's not what we mean to be teaching to our children, in my opinion. Acceptance is accepting your child for who they are and how they are. It's not their fault, right, that they are traumatized. It's not their fault that their brain and their body was hijacked basically by trauma or attachment challenge. And so treating them like behavior is their fault when really behavior is a symptom of trauma is sad because they can't help it. And I know it seems like they can help it because they sometimes can help it, right? But that's just because brains are spiky. You know, when your bandwidth is broad, you can help it. But when you're stressed at all of a sudden you can't help it anymore. And that's what's really important for parents to understand. Yeah, they do know right from wrong. They can sometimes make good decisions, but only when their bandwidth is broad. So it's not that they don't have the information, it's that they can't access it when they're under stress. So meeting your kids with acceptance, like even around things like what we call school refusal. Well, school refusal, there's something under that, right? They're not just lazy. I know it feels that way, but that's not actually it. It's that it's stressful to go to school for them for some reason, or something's going on that makes them not want to go. And so we can be more accepting of, okay, I get that you don't want to go, honey. Help me understand that, right? Be curious, accepting and then curious. Like, what is it? What's it about? How can I help you? Like, be for your kids. Be for them. A lot of times we're kind of against them accidentally. Like they say something, we're like, no, that's not what happened. Like the kid's like, no, but I didn't want to go because I was scared. Like, no, you weren't scared. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, first of all, I've said it. And secondly, how often I hear it, a parent denying the child's reality because we're just assuming that they're blowing smoke at us. But really, they're not. They are probably scared. They often don't know why they feel the way they do. They often don't know exactly how to put words to what's going on. But it's real. And we need to be compassionate enough and curious enough to try and get at it so that we can help them. We can be for them. We can run interference for them. We can be a bridge for them rather than a roadblock. And then empathy. Meet your kids with empathy. If they are having a bad day, it's okay to feel some empathy about that. You have bad days, right? Wouldn't it be nice if, your partner met you at the door and said, oh, honey, I had a hard day. I'm sorry. Here's a martini. No, I'm just kidding. Here's a nice glass of lemonade. I'd be in bed like in 30 seconds if I had a martini at the door. But what you want in life, right, are people who love you enough to have empathy for whatever you're experiencing, even if, let's say, you're just a tad high strung and maybe every day you come home a little bent. You want a partner who's like, oh, babe, another hard day, rather than you and your hard days. That nobody wants that. And so meet your kids with empathy, because what is empathy if not love, right? It's really the expression of love. So children need attunement from safe parents. From the secure base, children can feel safe to explore the world and then return to safety. Now, that's what we know about 2-year-olds, but this is true for all ages of kids. They need to be able to feel safe with us, go explore out in the world, and come back to safety. Instead of, they go and explore out in the world, sneak around us to figure out who they are and how they are. And then when they come back, they deny that they did it and they tell us lies. That's what we don't want, but that's what they do if we're scary and we're not a secure base for them. Does that make sense? Like kids sneak and lie because it's too scary to tell us the truth and because we are not compassionate about what they want to do. Now, of course, some kids sneak and lie because they just want to do what they want to do, even if we have been compassionate. But what we want to do is make sure we have been compassionate and caring so that we know for a fact that the sneaking or the lying isn't because we are making that happen. Building emotional connection through empathy and attunement. This is important. Attunement is just soft eyes, right? Tuning into your child rather than pulling back and lecturing your child, for example. Your emotions might be different than your child's. Like a child is upset and maybe you come in as soothing, but you want to match their upset with energy, right? Energy to energy. So if my child comes in all upset, they took my toy, you can be like, oh, it's fine. Just go play with a different toy. That's dismissive. And also it's not meeting your child with any kind of soothing. What you want to do is be like, oh, empathy, right? Oh, you lost your toy or you didn't get to play with the same toy you wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry that happened. What can we do? Is there some other toy that you could play with? Can you come over here and help me make the salad? Whatever it is, right? You might use distraction or you might offer up something else. But what you want to do is match the energy, not deny it, right? And not push it away. So affect is the nonverbal or bodily expression of emotions. So we don't want to give cues to our kids that they don't matter. So a lot of times, like, I don't know if you have any 6-year-olds around you right now in your lives, but 6-year-olds are quite chatty. So they might come home and they'll just talk. Oh, I did this and this and this, and then Sarah did that, and she said this, and then they took my toy, and then we, right? Like all out, talking nonstop. And then we might be busy doing something else. And it might feel kind of annoying to have this little chatterbox right next to us talking sort of about nothing meaningful to us. And so we might give an affective response like, seriously, we might get sarcastic or get judgmental or push a little 6-year-old away, like what she's saying doesn't matter. But this is her whole world. This is her whole life. This is who she is right now. And whatever we give her in that moment gives her a message about who she is. She's either completely accepted for the little chatterbox she is, what a delightful little chatterbox she is, or not. And so the question is, do we want to be healing these attachment breaches or do we want to be worsening them? Because we are part of the problem if we aren't really being unconditionally loving. And that means in everything. What does that make you have to be? A super parent, right? Where you never have your own emotions? No, of course not. It just means be aware of your own regulation and self-care so that you take care of yourself enough and you regulate enough so that you aren't just constantly spent or tired or over it, right? Because your kids are needy. They have high-end needs, which means you have high-end self-care needs and you have to meet them. A lot of parents just deny their own needs and you're not having enough self-compassion in order to take care of yourself so that you can be that loving, guiding, healing light for your children. Kids who come from difficult beginnings have very few attuned relationships, right? Where people actually are tuned into them and matching them with emotion and concern and curiosity and acceptance. They have few of those. And so it's important for us to be that for them, to be really attuned, to actually be the one that shows up for them and leans in, because that's what they need. That's what they're missing. And that's what will heal them. So it's really important to be in a relationship repair mode with your children all the time. Otherwise, we're going to be in an escalating defensiveness mode, right? Which causes rupture. Let me give you an example. I say to my 10-year-old, it doesn't look like you put your backpack away. Go put your backpack away. And my 10-year-old says, yes, I did. No, you didn't. I just saw it. I was in the living room and I saw that you didn't put it away. Go put it away. I did. I put it away. Okay, now I'm going to go show you where your backpack is. Right? So now we're in this escalating defensiveness. You know you're right, so you don't actually have to keep escalating that. You know you're right. You just walked past the backpack. So the child is just in a defensiveness pattern. So it's not even about the backpack. It's about being in that kind of negative trauma pattern with you. And so step out of the trauma pattern. Step out and be like, oh, you think you'd put it away, I'll bet. Okay, well, come with me. Together, you can go get the backpack and pick it up. It's like you thought you did. I get it. You can just assume the best, even if it's not the best. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just step out of the defensive pattern, right? The negative pattern. We don't have to win these things. Parents always think they have to win because our kids are so busy trying to get out of trouble, right? They're really busy trying to get out of trouble. And you know what the best thing you can do for them is? Never get them in trouble in the first place. Let them just learn from their mistakes and be like, oh gosh, yeah, that happened. Oh, and now you can't go to school tomorrow. Wow. Okay. What did you learn from that? That's enough. Like they don't need to be in trouble too at home. They just got in trouble. So trouble doesn't teach. Trouble teaches them something about themselves. It doesn't teach them what to do better next time because that's not the lesson they're going to learn. If you lose your mind and you blow your top, repair. But in order to repair with your child, you have to have compassion for yourself so that you can have compassion for them. So a lot of times you lose your patience and you maybe yell, and then you blame the child for making you yell. Right? If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have yelled at you, which is how it feels, but it's not really true, right? We're all in charge of our own regulation and our own yelling. So self-compassion, wow, I yelled, I didn't regulate, shoot. I wish I hadn't done that, but it's okay, I'm human, right? So that you can accept your child's humanness and have compassion for them. The whole goal of all of this is unconditional love, right? Repair and return to a place of peaceful living, right? Like you get ruptured in relationships a lot when we have miscommunication or things don't go the way we want. There's a breach. That's okay. Repair and get back into the love state. Love is healing. Love is part of the human condition. We are born to love. That is actually true. It's a biological imperative. Our children who seem the most unlovable need love and want love the most. They're the most scared of it. So we have to work very hard to love past their fear and to not be reactive to their negative trauma defense patterns. Because that's really all we're doing is we're getting engaged in their negative trauma defense patterns and we're getting hooked into them. And then we end up actually being unloving. And that's exactly what they expect, right? That's their pattern. They don't believe that anybody will ever love them because their original parent didn't or couldn't. Now here it is. There you are. You can't love me either because look how mean you are to me. And that's what they're pulling for, right? Is that negative trauma pattern to repeat itself so they can say, see, I was right to never trust anybody, even you. And that's what we're trying to do. So it doesn't mean you never have to get drawn into the pattern. It means you have to repair when you do. Like, I'm sorry. I should not have lost my temper like that. I'm sorry. I said a mean thing and I really apologize, babe. Will you forgive me? Right? Like show up like a vulnerable human being with your kids sometimes and give them that. That's what we do in relationships when we love the people. Create a family atmosphere of safety, respect, fun, and predictability. Kids often have come from tense homes, hostility-ridden homes, fear-based homes, isolation, and control then becomes the only route to safety for them. So they come into our homes controlling little beings. They're controlling everything they possibly can to keep themselves safe. That's part of trauma brain. It's part of survival brain. And so instead of reacting to it, right, often parents react to that, their need to control. We say things like, I'm the parent, you're the kid, right? We say that a lot. It's because it's really infuriating to have a 6-year-old try and tell us how to drive to the grocery store. I get that. But we can just assure them, hey, it's okay. I know how to get to the grocery store. Thanks for letting me know that you know too. That's okay. They can know how to get to the grocery store too. But you can reassure them that you also know how to get to the grocery store, and so that they can relax their worry about it. They're really just trying to help, even though it's controlling. They're trying to be part of living, and they don't know how to do it any better way yet. Attachment injury in children causes resistance, right? So they resist positive family atmosphere. They resist empathy and closeness because it's scary. They seek hostility and recrimination, and they seek negative engagement and doubling down on control. That's what their natural inclination is to do based on their experience. So instead of fighting it, we can accept it. You know, when the child refuses to join us or go with us somewhere, we can just step out of the battle and say, okay, well, I accept that you don't want to go, honey. That's all right. Let's see. I can find a childcare worker for you, or you can go to your friend's house, or you can come with us. It's up to you, right? Just accepting it rather than fighting all the time. Once they start seeing that you will accept them as they are, then they have way less resistance to you. And then these are the obvious things, creating belonging. These two sentences I really want you to pay close attention to. Unfortunately, we parents can get into the, if you do what I want, or if you do what we want, then you belong here. And you will always belong no matter what. Think about those two sentences. If you do what we want, you belong. Or you will always belong no matter what. Which one do you think feels like belonging to a child who comes from difficult beginnings? Unfortunately, this first sentence is what kids get a lot of. If you do what I want, then you're part of this family. If you don't do what we want, then you don't belong here. And that is painful, right? They come to you not belonging. They are looking for belonging, but they don't feel belonging. So we have to help them fit in, be accepted as they are, so that one day they could shed that protective crust, right? That's protecting them, that defensiveness, they can shed it and attempt vulnerability with us. These things at the bottom are just some things that we can do to help them belong. Creating belonging, even when the child resists, even when the child refuses, even when they feel different than you, even when they don't feel safe, even when they project angrily upon you, right? Kids are going to do all those things, and we can still love them and accept them and let them belong. It's important to up the structure with our kids. High structure, high supervision, high nurture, right? High nurture, watch them. They need supervision. They have poor decision-making skills and they're impulsive often, and they need structure. They'll do quite well in structure. So plan so that life is predictable. If you have to change a plan, tell them in advance. It's okay for them to always want to know what's next. They want to know what's next to keep themselves safe and to be able to predict. That's all that is. It's not controlling you. It's controlling themselves. Plan for dysregulation. They are going to get dysregulated. Give yourself extra time. It's going to take some time. Lean into dysregulation. Your job, your only job when a child is dysregulated is to be a co-regulator for them, is to stay calm, not super calm, but to match them where they're at and lean in like, I love you, babe. I've got you. I'm going to be right here. It'll be okay. I've got you, right? That kind of stance with a child that's dysregulated. Sometimes we get an angry stance with kids who are dysregulated because it feels like they're in our way or they're causing us delay or whatever. It's like, come on, you're not going to melt down here. Come on, we're going to go. Like, just kind of get over it, get over it, get over it. But that makes it worse, just so you know. Kids need a higher level of supervision because they do harm other kids and they do harm themselves. And they do get into trouble. Don't think that if they're 12, suddenly you have to be able to leave them at home alone because they're 12. Or if they're 16, suddenly they do get to drive. Or because they turn a certain age, that's really not the predictor of whether or not they still need or don't need structure. I already said this, but I can't say it enough. That's why I wrote it in these great big letters. Self-care. Self-care is everything. Rest, relaxation, recuperation. Your nervous system needs to come off the ledge. You cannot parent children like this well at all without regular rest, relaxation, recuperation. Let your nervous system come off the high stress avenue. And do all kinds of things. Do all kinds of neurohacks. Do all kinds of regulating things. I have a lot of neurohacks that 100% work to calm my nervous system. And I do them all the time because I work in a stressful environment and I need to calm myself. And so do you if you are raising children from difficult beginnings. The best thing you can do for yourself is to learn how to step aside from confrontation. They need to keep their lids on, right? They need to keep their emotional lids on. So constantly correcting, constantly confronting, constantly getting them into trouble, constantly consequencing them. That doesn't teach them. It really doesn't. What it does is it flips their lid and it keeps their cortisol flooding their prefrontal cortex longer. So the goal of therapeutic parenting is to not get into confrontations and battles, but to step aside and walk side by side them instead. It's a good lesson in learning how to eat crow if you're a parent, right? Because you don't get to be right. You just get to be doing the right thing, right? You know how kids are. They always think they're right, and that's how they keep themselves safe. We don't have to be in a battle with them for right, especially if we just walk past that backpack and we know it's in the middle of the floor. We don't have to have a battle about it. So I'm going to end with this statement. All children need and deserve unconditional love. Love is the foundation for a secure base, and a secure base heals reactive attachment challenges over time. Don't give up. Stay in the game. I stayed in the game with my kids well into their I'm still there, obviously, but in their mid-20s when they stopped needing me so much. And they feel so much better today than they ever thought they would, because they had very difficult childhoods with me in the beginning. I'm proud of them and I'm proud of myself that I stayed in it. And I feel sad when parents feel so unsupported and so overwhelmed that they have to give up, because then everybody loses. Big thanks to everyone who joined me for this entire series, Part 1 through Part 4 of Reactive Attachment Disorder. Oh, the ins and outs. I want you to know that Reactive Attachment Disorder is diagnosed in or from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's a book that gets published and updated and edited rarely, which means that sometimes diagnoses are old. And I would tell you that reactive attachment disorder is a very old diagnosis. And so one day, it's my belief that complex developmental trauma will be included in the DSM so that we can actually diagnose our kids with what they really have, which is not a mental health disorder, but rather a situation that occurred that impacted their brain. Check out all the resources in the show notes if you find you're struggling to manage the difficult parenting path your life has dished up for you. You matter, your love matters, and support matters to carry your family forward through the storm of reactive attachment disorder or complex developmental trauma. You don't have to navigate this storm alone. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week on Unmuted Love.